नमस्कार सभी भक्त जनों को बहुत बहुत हार्दिक अभिनंदन। रूपा भवानी के 400वें इस महापर्व पर मैं आपके सामने एक महान विभूति श्रीमती रॉबिन एडम्स जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया से बिलोंग करती हैं, उनको मैं आज आपके समक्ष ला रहा हूं। आई हार्टिली वेलकम Revered Robyn Adams from Australia, who is part and parcel of the entire peace initiative and whatever is true for Kashmir and the entire globe. I will not take much time, but directly I wish dear Robbins to say whatever she had experienced in 1988 in Srinagar and surroundings and other places, particularly Cheshme Sahibi, Hari Parbat, Chakreshwar, and last not the least, I wish that we'll know from you the Kashmir goddess in Australia. We want to listen to some aspects because no one knows about these divine aspects of Mother Goddess. Please proceed.
So, namaste, everyone. I hope you can understand my accent. But yes, back in 1988, my husband then, Philip Sinfendorfer, many of whom you will know him, who died in 2003, he and I visited Omkar and Durji, and they took us around to a lot of places, but there was an undercurrent happening, and a lot of the holy men were very disturbed with what they were feeling. So anyway, we went on a trek right up into the mountains, up to the valley of Gadsar and all, and Mount the lake up there, Mount Harmuk, I think it's called, and it was absolutely beautiful. And when we got back to stay with Omkar and Durji, I developed quite a nasty cough and a chest infection. And that day we'd been up to Shesmashebi to pay homage to Roopabhawani and to hear the story of how she was taken her body through death. And I felt a very strong touching with her. Anyway, that night, lying in bed, I was attacked with coughing and I was really feeling very ill. And a light came down into my head and I heard the voice, "Get up, I want to tell you something." So I got up and sat in the chair. This light came down and healed me, just like that. And it was Roopabhawani healing me because she wanted me to do a special job, I guess it is, a special mission to take and collect a lot of the divine feminine energy from a number of sites around Kashmir that had been revered for eons, because they were on the higher level, they knew that they were going to be destroyed or desecrated in some way. So Philip and I started off with the with Omkar and a couple of other men, and we visited many of these sites. And as we did, it was very interesting the way it was attached to me. This energy came into me and it was sealed in my aura like a warp and a weft. You know, when you're weaving, you should have got the warp and the weft, and it was woven around me. And in Australia, of course, we have a lot of wool, and they press the wool into make the bales smaller. So this was happening every night. My energy that I'd collected was compressed, and it got to be quite large. So it was being observed, you know, by Muslim mullahs and people. So there was a couple of places we stayed. There was this uncomfortable feeling. So Philip was given a special dispensation, I should imagine, to protect me, and he was empowered to protect me, to be safe in all these places, because this undercurrent was getting stronger. So we then planned to travel to Pahalgam, because in that year was the World Hilly Conference and people had come from all over the world. this must have been, was this 1988? It must have been, because we didn't go back after that yet. And while we were in, I can't remember the name of it, a little town, we were told there was a curfew, and it was the place where the ashram.
Nagdandi.
Yeah, and
Nagdandi.
and that's where we stayed at the government hostel, which is a beautiful garden, and every day we'd go to meditate in this beautiful ashram.
Ashokanand ashram.
And there were a couple of the women saints in spirit still there.
Okay. That is Ishwar ashram, Ishbar, near Nishat.
Right. So it's a long time since I can't remember all the names. So they taught me a lot, and every day we tried to leave, and one day we even got a taxi and hid under a blanket to try and get out, but we were sprung. Anyway, finally we left. We couldn't get to Pahalgam. But there was a Muslim mullah came in every day, and he'd look at me and he'd say to Philip, "Who's that?" And I'd rush inside, and he's, "That's my wife," So he could see something going on. So it was time then, as soon as we could leave, we decided to leave India, leave Kashmir.
Okay.
So I went to the Air India office in Srinagar, and of course you can imagine what the chaos was like there. Yeah. It was absolute chaos, and our flight was booked for the following week. Anyway, the goddess must have been with us, because I started talking to this very harassed man, and it turned out he was the manager. And he said, "Oh, come in," because I treated him nicely. Everybody else was shouting at him. and anyway, he came in, took our names. The next day we were on a flight out, and he said, "I can only get you to Delhi." That was fine. And I'd been shown a vision of where this energy was to be taken in Australia. And it was to be taken to Australia because we are a pretty free country from religious dogma. Our women are pretty empowered. There's much more freedom to be who we are. And it's such a vast place, this energy could be hidden until it was safe to be released. So we got a flight back to Sydney. The next day we were on a flight to Uluru, which is in the centre of Australia. And it's not Uluru so much that is the main place. The feminine area is Katajuta, the Olgas. Yeah. It's a many-headed rock formation. So we got a bus. We went out to that area, and the bus driver on the way said, "I've never been to the Valley of the Winds car park. Who'd like to go?" And everybody in the bus said, "Fine." So we got to the car park, and people got out and said, "Well, if you walk through the valley, you can meet the afternoon bus." And he turned to Philip and I, and he said, "And you two should go that way." So we followed that direction, and we found at the end of a valley the exact place I'd been shown where this energy was to be deposited. But interestingly enough, it was the day before we were supposed to deposit the energy, which was a full moon, and it was Raksha Bandhi Day, and it was a very auspicious day. So we had to go back the next day. And there was a different bus driver, and he said he wouldn't take us to the Valley of the Winds car park, which meant a very long walk. But on the way, we meditated, and halfway through we said, "Oh, I've never been there, can we get there?" Fine. So off we went. So we got to the designated place at the right time. I forgot to mention that 3 layers of protection to be put around me. One was a sheer gauze one, rather like some of the saris, which are so beautiful. The second one was a rainbow light, which designated Australia, and certainly the centre of Australia. And the third one was a black robe, like a chador, it was a real covering. So the black robe was removed, and there was this huge being of light who had come from Kashmir to help this dissemination of this energy. The other 2 veils disintegrated, and all this, I can only describe it as sparks of light, hundreds and hundreds of millions of sparks of light just emanated from my aura, and they were relegated into different lines, and this great being directed them. There'd obviously been work done by others beforehand. And when it was over, I hadn't realized how heavy it was. Even though it was light, it was really heavy energetically. So after that happened, we could leave. But then subsequent things happened. We heard that Kashmir had been invaded, but this energy was protected. And then in 2000, the message was, when the centre of Australia is green, then the energy can be released. Well, I happened to be at a place where I used to work, and I happened to overhear two women saying, I've just been up to Central Australia and it's so green. And that was the message. So some friends and I drove out there. It's a very long way, as you can imagine. It's a very long drive. And it was for also World Healing Day, the 5th of May, and this was in 2000. So this was when the energy was to be released. Okay. And we got there and it happened. And then subsequently, I don't know if you know a man called John Brown. Did he come and visit you? He took some of he got a message to take some of that back. And then, of course, there was Salantra King, who you know, who took some of that back. It wasn't my role to take it back. There were others who could do that. Yeah. But not all of it. But what my role was to travel around the world and deposit this Shakti energy in many sacred sites around the world. So it's spreading that that energy. And that happened in the 90s. Yeah. And subsequently 2000. It happened whenever I had to go on a sacred journey, and I've been on many. And the other thing that was activated then was something called the Sisterhood of the Rose, which is actually a Western aspect of the divine Kashmiri energy, I believe, because it's all one. Mm-hmm. So that was, and then I wrote the book called The Sisterhood of the Rose. So I guess my wish is that this divine feminine energy can be totally absorbed by all those who need to do it, and that women become empowered and men find their sacred feminine within them as well, because what's the point of trying to destroy each other or to compete with each other, because we've all come from the one source. And basically our journey here, from my understanding, is to wake up to the fact that we've all been expressed from the heart and the mind of the Creator. Going on a huge adventure can take millions of years, but our divine mission is to get back into the heart of that Creator. And the more of us who realize that, the more upliftments it will happen on Earth and probably in the universe. So that's part of the story.
That was one part of the story. I wish few mention about that Hari Parbat experience, when you experienced rather three divine entities. Please say some few words about that also.
I think that was when we were journeying around the different sites. The other place was Roopabhawani Spring. Yeah. And that was a pretty important place as well. Yeah. But at the Hari Parbat, yes, we were sitting there meditating, and the goddess came and she said, no longer do I want women to worship at my feet. I want them to lift themselves up and be equal to me. I don't need to be worshipped. I need to be loved for the divine being that I am. But so are you. You are also divine beings, and you are as me. You know, I am no greater or no less than you. And if you can become divine like me, you are totally empowered.
It's a great message.
Her message was, don't worship me.
Yeah.
Just love me.
Yeah, loving is more than worship.
Well, worship, you're giving your power away to something else.
Okay.
By loving, you're keeping it within you so it can emanate out.
Yeah. So you had written that they were in these three aspects: Roopabhawani and Lalit and Sharda. These three entities came out of that rock shrine, Hari Parvat, I mean to say. You had written somewhere.
Yes. Uh, Look, I hardly remember that. I know if I wrote about it, but because I've had such an eventful life like that. But they were also very, very strong at the ashram that I stayed in, because we had more time there and it was peaceful and we could sit and
Okay.
meditate. But
What?
certainly Ledeth and
Yeah. Okay. What about this goddess in Australia now at present? I heard from you. We had a long telephonic talk years back. You had mentioned about Aurelia, something. Yeah.
yes,
I want to. I want to
Aurelia.
hear what's.
Aurelia. Aurelia is a bit of an anagram of Australia without this. It's like Saint Aurelia. If you took the ST out of Australia, you'd get Saint Aurelia.
Okay.
Now, the property that we had the spiritual retreat on, Philip and I, was called Beltrees. And then later on, it was changed to Glastonbury. And there was 40 acres under a separate title. So when Philip and I got divorced, he gifted me the 40 acres. And we had a ceremony up there to try and discover what it wanted to be called and what its purpose was. And I've actually got a photo of the energy that came down called Aurelia, and it touched us all. And then I was told to take that energy around the world as well, and gift it to the sites and to many women around the world. Now, Aurelia, we built a little shack there, and I used to go down there every year until the woman I owned it with wanted to sell it, so we sold that just before the fires came. When we lived there, there was never a bushfire on the property. We managed to keep it out, and if there was one threatening, because it's a very fiery area in the mountains, we'd go to the meditation cabin and meditate, and often the wind would change, and we'd be right. But after I left, a fire went through the whole place. And maybe it was time for a cleansing. I don't know, to clear out a lot of the old energy, our energy, and start again. But the man who bought the property, who bought both properties actually, I don't think he's doing anything there. I think it's gone dormant again until the next time it needs, because we activated it so much and all the sites were absolutely buzzing. And then after Philip died, the people, well, you would have found this too, the people who take over think they know, but they don't quite know, so they distort the message. You know that whole story. But Aurelia is she's still around. She's still very strong with me.
Oh, great.
And also, actually, what she has done is ascended. I visit now. This is going to sound weird, I suppose, but doesn't matter. I spend a lot of time in what's called a celestial city on another dimension. And Aurelia is the commander, or the queen of that city. So that's my fifth.
Your Peru experience was also a very beautiful experience when you visited Peru, Panchamama temple, and those images were
Peru,
shared
yes.
by I saw that.
I had a lot to do with Peru, with Pachamama. Yes.
Panchamama, yeah. Such a beautiful journey. I heartily thank you for everything, all blessings. On this occasion of 400th year, we are completing that of Roopabhawani's appearance. Ansha Avatar, as we say, she emanated, she took birth as a daughter of Madhav Judhar. And what message you would like to share for all of us around the globe?
I just think it is fantastic that she is still so much in your hearts and minds, and that she's still working through you. And her birthday is the day after mine. So
I once again say happy birthday in advance to you on behalf of my entire community. But that day
But
we'll also wish you. But today also we wish you all the best and good health and good.
I certainly hope, Dalip, that the Kashmiri diaspora manages to reconvene in their beautiful homeland, because it is a paradise on earth, and
Yes,
it
yes,
seems
definitely.
it's a travesty that people are living there who don't appreciate and understand its divine role on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
But you see, we got to the stage where we don't actually have to travel to places; we can just be there anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, just keep it in our hearts and minds, and lots of
Absolutely.
photos of the beautiful place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a wonderful journey, a unique spiritual journey. And that too had a strong connection, a bonding with Kashmir, bonding with Roopabhawani. And we came to know that the sacred feminine aura, which was taken to Australia, was later on taken to other parts of the world and respectively deposited at various sacred sites around the globe. This journey, which is beyond our imagination, but at the same time, we know, we realized that Kashmira, Bhagavati Kashmira, be it Sharika, be it Maharajna, be it Parvati, be it Sati, be it Jwala, Vida, Vaikhari, Vatasta, Mahakali, whosoever, Lalita, Mahatripura Sundari, she is everywhere. सुनने में तो ये भी आया कि गॉडेस ऑफ कश्मीर जापान में भी विद्यमान है, अनेकों जगहों पर विद्यमान है, और कश्मीर से कैसे उसने ट्रैवल किया, ये एक शोध का विषय है. फिलहाल माता रूपा भवानी के तेज का, प्रताप का जो विवरण हमने सुना अभी, ये किसी आशीर्वाद से कम नहीं. हमें यह आश्वासन भी मिला और ये आशीर्वाद भी मिला कि जब भी हम अपने घर जाएंगे, उन सेक्रेड साइट्स के लिए, उनकी सेवा के लिए जय जयकार तमिस भगवती, जय जयकार अमिस माज रब भवानी, यम सुंद आशीर्वाद अस सारनी जिंद छु थवान तो चलायमान छु थवान, एक्टिव छु थवान, इच्छा ज्ञान तो क्रिया शक्ति सतन पोषित तो पल्लवित छु थवान. अथ सतन वारियाह वारियाह अही यह दोह 24 जून यह ٲسِن सु दोह यम दोहन पूरे दुनियाहस मज यमो कर वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट कथ, तथ सत हर अख जीव, हर अख इंसान ٲسِन समानताई के भाव सतन पोषित तो पल्लवित, तो यह दुनिया ٲسِन असवुन तो गिंदवुन. वीरेंद्र पटवारी जी सिंजन लर्नन मज तिहंद वन असुन गिंदुन सोन मौजूद रूजन, मिलसार सोन उमरन पोषन, वारिया वारिया अही. तो धन्यवाद.